Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Heumann Perspective. Today, our story is going to be focusing on journalism, and we have two great guests, Cara Reedy, who is currently program manager at the Disability Rights Education and Defense Fund for the Disability Media Alliance Project, and Wendy Lu, who is currently the staff news editor and national reporter for the Huffington Post. My name is Judy Heumann. I'm sitting in my foyer. I am a white 73-year-old disabled woman. I'm actually wearing a blouse of my late mother's, and it's a floral print. And I have on purple and teal glasses, and I'm surrounded by postcards that friends send and pictures of family and friends. Wendy, would you like to give your image description, please?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Wendy. I am a Chinese American woman, cis woman in my 20s. I'm wearing glasses, tricots to me too, and a blue and white floral patterned dress. And I'm just sitting in front of my bedroom door at home, and it's white.
Cara.
My name's Cara, and I'm a middle-aged African-American woman with curly black hair with streaks of gray. I'm wearing a white shirt with black geometric print on it. And I am sitting in front of my couch with floral pillows on it.
I'm wondering, have either of you experienced ableism either in pursuit of jobs or while in the jobs that you've been in? And what do you see as some of the causes of the ableism, and what are areas of work that you're doing to try to address it?
Sure. I experienced ableism all the way throughout my time in journalism. So, I mean, like when you're receiving any kind of discrimination, most of the time they're not going to say, we're not going to give it to you because we're not going to give you this job because you're you. Like,
Right.
Look at yourself. They're never going to say that. Now, I did hear things from other people. Like, there was this one time I was working with this editor, and she was the personal finance editor. And then one of the reporters was like, "We should do something fun." And I have worked in comedy. I took improv, and I was like in the middle of my improv life during this time. And so people had seen what I had done, and this reporter went to the editor and said, "Can we like get Cara to do man on the street stuff for personal finance?" And the editor was like, "Yes, let's do it." So we came up with a plan, and we were like getting ready to do it. We're going to do some man on the street stuff. And then the editor went into the video manager, general manager, and told him this big plan that we had come up with. And he looked at her. I was not in the room, but I trust that she's telling me the truth. And he said, "You know, we can't put her on camera. We can't put her on camera. That'll be exploitative."
Oh.
And these are, but there was like years and years of, those are like the real like out loud ones, but there were years and years of me pitching stories and being told, "Oh, nobody cares about disability. Oh, like just ew, gross." And one time I pitched a fashion story that had nothing to do with disability other than like we may interview some disabled people about fashion. But it was generally a story about, it was a personal finance story about fashion and how to like create a cool wardrobe on a budget. Like, how do you do it? And I pitched it and said, "Look, I'm a dwarf. I have to get everything tailored. You guys know you don't pay me that much. And here's all the outfits that I can do. I'd love to do like a series on this." And I'd actually worked for a stylist and I pitched that part. I worked for a stylist when I was in photography school. And he looked at me, the editor looked at me and he goes, is this another dwarf story? We're not in the market for more dwarf stories. I said, no, this is a fashion story. And I happen to be a dwarf telling a fashion story. And he's like, I don't see it. I see this as a dwarf story and we're not pitching that. Like, we're not doing those things. So it was just like and I gave up. Like, it's at a certain point at CNN, I just was like, forget it. I'm not pitching anything because there's no point. I'm not going to get my feelings hurt if I keep pitching stuff. So I'll just hurry up and get out of here. I can go do something else. But yeah, and what I will say is all of those people are still in management positions at various large media organizations. One of them works at the New York Times, the other one's still at CNN. So when people wonder like why we can't get disability covered or why we can't get it covered properly, these are the people making the decisions.
I mean, I think the story that you're telling about including disabled people in stories on fashion is really an example of what we're trying to do. It's not just have separate stories on disabled people, but being able to integrate our issues into mainstream issues.
Yeah, that's something that, disability, it's part of every beat. It's not just siloed into health or feel good features. Like Cara was trying to pitch, like it's part of fashion, education, politics, across the board. And I was listening to Cara's story, and it's just when the people in management have that sort of mindset, we wonder like, how come disabled people can't get promoted or can't get more jobs? That is why. And it reminds me of a different experience, but it reminded me of the time also when I was about to graduate from Columbia, and we were taking a tour at a really big newsroom, a global newsroom. And I remember we were in the it was a broadcast newsroom, and we were right by one of the producers' offices, and he came out to talk to us, the students. And at one point, he he looked at me. I guess he was we were chatting casually with him, and he looked at me and he did a double take and said, "What happened to you?" And there was silence, and all of the other students, my classmates, looked at me, and it was so awkward and uncomfortable. And when people ask me that, I have a whole spiel. I say, "Oh, I have a disability. I have trait 2 helps me breathe." But I remember the way that he worded that. What happened to you? There's just so much assumption and disrespect and ableism right in those few words. And we were there, as students hoping to network, maybe get some leads on potential jobs. And it's like, how can you say or think that to, anybody really? So that was just what Cara's story reminded me of.
I mean, Cara, I know that one of the reasons that you're working on a journalism association and work that you're doing is presenting on panels. And I know, Wendy, you do the same thing. So part of the discussion that we've been having makes me think about what is the way that you feel we can be educating people about what ableism is and the harm that it does and the adverse effect that it has, I would say, particularly in journalism, because of the negative views that editors and others have, which prevent appropriate coverage.
Well, Well, the biggest thing that it does is it allows people to die in silence. I mean, I look at, look at the pandemic. We all know that disabled people were more affected by it than anyone else. And then people of color with disabilities were more affected, specifically Black and Black, Latino, and Native American. But if you're not looking for it and you're not covering it, then how are you? The point of journalism is to keep everybody's feet to the fire. And if you're absent on your watch for 26% of the population, then you're not doing your job. That's just the bottom line. You're not doing your job. And, you know, newsrooms right now are transforming themselves, not by choice, but by force, because people are speaking up and they're saying, I'm not taking this anymore. Here's the problem with disability: there's not enough of us in the newsroom to do that. And the ones, and maybe there are some people that aren't out. Like, if, quite frankly, like, who would choose to be out in these very ableist places? Because it puts a target on your back to get fired. It puts a target on your back to, you know, if you're not producing as much as they think you should, then they can blame it on your disability and then say, well, we can't hire any more of those people because they're not doing the work. And so you're alone. You're alone in these places. You have no one to go to. Like, I'm African American, I'm Black. Like, I could go to the Black Journalists Association and great, but like, there's a missing piece that they don't understand about my situation. So their advice and stuff is great, but it doesn't really hit the mark for me because I have the intersections. So if we don't, the need for this disabled journalists association is so great because we don't have like a unifying force and voice, then they're not going to listen. And so if there's, Wendy's at HuffPo and she has a colleague, Elise. So Wendy and Elise are at HuffPo. They're two people, right? I don't even know who's at CNN, right? So they're alone and they can't speak up for fear of losing their jobs. But you know what? The Disabled Journalists Association can speak up. They can say things.
Yeah, Judy, I think you're, in your question, you brought up like this idea of having to educate people. And that's really a major balance. It requires balancing, your own time and energy to educate other people with like all the other work that you have to do on top of that. I think when I first joined HuffPost, like any job, when you join a new organization, it takes some time to, familiarize yourself with workplace culture, with your colleagues. But I knew that I wanted to somehow make a difference, help to improve our coverage. And I think the work is really rewarding. I love my job so much. And I also love that, I've almost been there 3 years. And in that time, I've been able to host trainings, to, educate really colleagues on it. And I'm really glad to say we've made a lot of progress in disability coverage. We don't really publish any sort of inspiration porn anymore, which thank goodness. And I'm also seeing more editors and reporters proposing disability stories on their own. And that's been one of the most rewarding things to see, is that like, I don't want to be the one person who is like the go-to on all things disability. I love seeing when other colleagues step up and think about disability as well, regardless of whether they are disabled too. It just becomes part of our coverage.
So we're coming to the end of our program, and I just want to say it's been a very rich discussion and one that obviously will continue. And I want to make a couple of points. One is the three of us today all had our disabilities either from birth or when we were young. And the majority of disabled people in the United States have their disabilities later. One of the important issues of having people like Cara and Wendy involved in this industry and the field of sharing accurate information that provokes thinking is to be able to help open the doors to look at people across the age range when they become disabled. And I want to thank you both for the work you're doing. And we obviously will continue to follow what's going on with the New Journalism Association. And I really appreciate very much your candid comments, because I think whatever field you're in, whether you have a disability or not, this type of really open, honest discussion, I hope provokes people at the very least to look at themselves and what they do in their daily lives, whether they have a disability or not, and look at journalism as a road of being able to help strengthen our democracy and really bring the stories of disabled individuals from all crosswalks of life and all backgrounds to the forefront to enrich our communities. So thank you both very much. I look forward to working with you. Have a good day.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
That history won't forget us or try to minimize our pain. And so I